Hello and welcome back to the Full Figured Interviews, where we talk to some of the incredible people in our Full Figured community. I'm James.
And I'm Tim, so let's get into it.
Now today we are speaking with the Vice President of Queen Size Magazine and Assistant Producer of the Full Figured Industry Awards, Mr. Philip Drew.
Greetings, guys. How are you?
Doing good.
Doing good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for asking.
Listen, we're really excited to get the chance to chat with you today because a little birdie told us that you are not normally one for doing interviews. Is that right?
That is correct. I try to stay behind the scenes as much as possible.
Well, look, I think we are on about to dig a little into that today, so I hope you're ready to get into it all.
Yes, let's do it.
Fantastic. So, for people who may not be familiar with you, and as you say, you're not necessarily one to be in front of the camera, for the people who don't know you, what is the first thing you want them to know about you?
I'm Tawana's right hand. That's pretty much where it starts and stops, pretty much.
Succinct.
Yes, succinct. I'm her facilitator for, people who like puns and whatnot. So I'm her facilitator. Anything she needs, I make sure it gets done. And, keep the ship running smooth, pretty much.
I like that. A man of action. I feel like a lot of people, and this is a conversation point that's come up a lot in these chats, right? A lot of people want to see incredible things happen in our Full Figured community. They want to get into the hustle. They want to do all of the things. And it is wonderful to be a dreamer, to have the ideas and the goals. It's wonderful. But baby, we need people doing the work. We need people the charge.
Everyone's at the finish line already clapping and no one's actually running the race yet, kind of.
Running the dang race. And like you say, sometimes it's being the right hand. So maybe in some instances it's you running the race to try and show the track for what it is. Sometimes you got to be the water boy on the side, handing out the drinks and beverages to the people to keep them going. Sometimes you're also the person helping set up the whole affair, putting up the bleachers, the signs and whatnot, and making sure directions are all laid out. Like, there's more to the race than just running it.
That's it.
I'd be curious, because you are her right-hand man. How did you and Tawana first come into contact with one another?
We met on the job. So my daytime, the 9 to 5 as it was, is audio-visual. So I set up meetings, presentation rooms, video conferencing. So Tawana had a meeting one evening for her event, and we met. I discussed logistics with her, and then the following day she had another meeting. And from there, we kind of just kept running into each other at work.
And so as a person who is her right hand and helped her develop the Full Figured Industry Awards and Queen Size Magazine, all the things that you have helped to facilitate over the years, how has that been for your own journey of body acceptance? Like, how did you come to find love and pride for your own body?
Great question. So I was never ever the fashionable type of person. I can just throw on some jeans, a shirt, and call it a day. So this has really been interesting for me. I think this more taps into my creative side as it was, especially with doing photography. Just really being able to see things, understand it, express it visually, and kind of have it resonate with people on whatever level it resonates with.
And have you been the principal photographer for the magazine since its inception?
I came on during the rebranding. So Queen Size was in existence for, I think, 2 or 3 years before I came on board. That's when we met. We had to rebrand, and from different conversations she had with me, she asked, would you be interested in working in a magazine? I was like, not particularly. That's not on my that's not on my bucket list of things to do. But yeah, so I gave it a shot, and through different things that happen in the business, working with many photographers, scheduling deadlines. I don't know if you know, it's not really a secret. Tawana loves her deadlines. We're deadline driven. We've never missed a deadline for anything she set. That's just life. It's like breathing. Death, taxes, and Tawana doesn't miss deadlines. Like those 3. So from a couple of hiccups with photographers and coming perilously close to missing some deadlines, we decided, we need an in-house photographer just so we can kind of keep the ship upright.
All those years of photographing the covers, photographing the models, being sort of the eye the eyes of this organization.
Right.
Like, how has that changed your relationships to any other sort of like euphemisms that we tend to use for fat, especially when we want to kind of punch it up a bit and use words like thick, curvy, voluptuous? And do you find the word fat itself triggering?
I don't find it triggering. I think it's an interesting word to use depending on, because people have a lot of connotations in their head once you say fat. So depending on the audience you're talking to, you may or may not want to use it. And I think that's kind of what we see sometimes when you say thick, voluptuous, curvy. It all depends on the demographic you're trying to adhere to. So an example is, let's just say BBWs. Like once you say that, you automatically get an image. Whether it's the correct one or not, once I say it, you know what it is. Now, depending on the demographic you're trying to cater to, they might find that offensive. Someone else might not even think anything of it. Other people might be like, yes, and they resonate with it. So it just kind of depends on knowing your audience. Literally in this industry, whether you're a magazine, model, influencer, content creator, you unfortunately have, even if you don't want to get into the business of any of it and be like, I'm just here to have fun, you have to at least on a ground floor level know your audience and definition on what can and can't trigger people, and kind of not turn a blind eye to it like, well, that's not what I mean, so whatever.
I like that you reference that the need for people to not be defensive when we do encounter that kind of a hurdle. Because I understand entirely, Tim and I are the kind of people who we proudly identify as fat. And
Right.
every euphemism you can find, baby, you can call me anything you want, just not late to dinner. Like, absolutely not an issue here.
Right.
However, that is, of course, not the experience of every single person. That is, of course, not the journey that every single person is on. You know, I think understanding the humanity of people who come from different experiences. I mean, this conversation comes up more and more recently. You know, it's the notion that we are not a monolith. We don't all come from the same background, the same experiences, the same interpretations of the same language. So it would be silly to walk into a space knowing what we know and going, oh, well, we'll just let fly. And
Right.
then clean up after.
I think that's what some people kind of do sometimes. It's kind of like they just say it without no regard and just being like, well, you just have to accept me. That's just what it is. But once again, in this space where everyone is kind of fighting for their seat at the table, it's kind of like I would say you can be yourself, but you still have to kind of be cognizant of things sometimes. Ignorance isn't always bliss. And you could hurt yourself without even knowing it.
Absolutely. I would be curious to ask you here, and as much as you feel comfortable sharing, what would you say has been the biggest thing in that realm that you've had to come to grips with as you move forward, both in your career as a photographer and with the work you do with Queen Size and the FFIAs?
So for me personally, this is the, and it, 9 to 5 and, other things as well, but it's like, this is the goal. This is what I want to do. I'm going to do everything to achieve it. That's kind of why Tuan and I mesh so well, because we're not people who kind of start something and stop. We don't have unfinished projects. It's not a thing. So I think one thing for me is how in the industry, and the other thing is I just like to know how things work. That's just, how I'm built, wired, however you want to say it. And it's weird sometimes how no matter your discipline, makeup artist, hair, whatever the case is, it's kind of like some people will come in, not want to learn anything about the past or even the present, and just be like, yeah, this is just what I do. Like, why do you do it like that? I don't know. I just do it like this, but that's not going to work for what you say you want to achieve. It doesn't matter. And then either they stay for a while and then disappear, or it's weird for me. It's like, this is the goal. This is what you need to do. This is what you're saying you want to do. But then in the end, nothing is meshing. Like your actions are not aligning with your words, and some people are kind of just comfortable with it. And to me, that kind of grinds my gears pretty much. And that's what I've been trying to personal development work on, as far as, listen, people are going to come in, they're going to say things just to kind of get an immediate impact and see how far that can get them without doing any real legwork as far as your race analogy goes. So I kind of called it one day like the fajita experience. Like it comes out the kitchen sizzling all out, and then after that it cools down. There's no real long-term viability with it, per se.
It's very, people used to say sleeping their way to the top, but truly these days it's like exploding your way to the middle.
Right.
Like you can show up with as much flashbang as you want, but you still gotta have something to deliver. And when you don't, it's like, well, that was that. A lot of people, I think these days especially, go with the adage of, oh well, I break the rules because that's what I do. But the problem with that is, in order for you to break the rules and stand out, you need to understand those rules first. So that when you break them and you position yourself, you're positioning yourself in relation to those rules. There is a reason why you existing outside the framework has impact, because it's still to do with the framework. When you just come in, not necessarily understanding the context within which you do the thing, you miss out on all of that nuance. It's all aesthetic and no context. It's all visual and no substance.
Yeah, always quality over quantity.
Yes, definitely.
And if I can take it back for a second, what was your relationship with creativity like growing up, and what ultimately led you to photography?
Creativity growing up, most creative probably chess. That was it. Like, he's like, yeah, I was on a chess team in school, so I was a nerd, for lack of a better term. That was it. That's as much creativity as it was. Leading into photography, so during the revamp, because it was just Tawana and myself at the beginning trying to make things work. So during the revamp, we were introduced to a graphic artist who works with brands, magazines, whatever the case is. So he pretty much, I'm not going to say what Tawana was building a magazine on before, but he said, okay, if you're going to be professional, then this is what you need to build a magazine on. Once again, knowing how things work. If this is the quality you want, then this is what you should be doing to get there. So he said, you need to learn Adobe InDesign. Like all magazines, all publications, Vogue, whoever it is, they use that. So Tawana was learning that, of course, me also helping with like, okay, I'll learn InDesign as well, and real kind, so that, if she's unable to do it, I can at least pick it up. Photography came along because we needed a house photographer. One of the things back to James's question was, as far as grinding my gears, is just deadlines are not following through and consistency. So we've worked with people where it's like the work that we see is why we booked you, but then the work we get is not what we saw. Especially being deadline driven as well. So someone had to pick up photography. So we made the conscious decision to say, Tawana's going to learn InDesign, I'm going to learn photography. As we begin to learn, then we'll cross train each other. So she can learn photography, she will teach me InDesign, so that, no matter where we're kind of stuck or doing, we can do it. Along the way, we realized, okay, so Adobe InDesign is an intensive program. If you're just learning it straight out the box, the learning curve is kind of high. And photography was difficult too, depending on what it is you're trying to capture, because photography is more of self. You have to learn the basics, but the end product is just your visual eye. But if you don't know the basics as far as shutter speed, aperture, ISO, which are the three things for photos, you're not going to get what you're looking for, literally, no pun intended. So eventually it turned into, okay, so Adobe's kind of intense, so I'm going to stay over here, and Phil, you do photography, that would be great. And that's how I got stuck with photography, by Tawana just running off.
And I can't exactly, you may or may not feel like you've dodged a bullet there, because as someone who's worked on those Adobe programs myself, it's like, I know that they are not user friendly. You do need to be taught an entire course on how to use the program before you even start using the program.
Well, I picked it up eventually, but yeah.
But I love how you said, you can have the basics down of photography. Which I agree with. You learn the three major ways of setting up a shot, but then you kind of have to have an artistic eye as well.
Yes.
You have to be able to sort of see the photograph in your mind before it's created on your digital print.
Yeah.
And as someone who's a amateur photographer myself, it's like I see the world kind of through the eye of a camera anyway.
Yeah.
And there are times when I'll look at something and I think, oh, that would make an awesome shot if I had a model here against this particular backdrop, this lighting, all that stuff. Like that I think forms a larger foundation than, of course, yes, learning the technical side, but like you got to have that passion and see the world through that lens.
Right. So the reason I say that is because, okay, so you do amateur photography, so you know about depth of field, you know about isopia brightness, you know about shutter speed, depending on how fast something's going.
Yeah.
If you don't know those, you can visualize all you want, but if you don't know
Yeah.
the beginning portion of these two things is what you need.
And I think I was trying to relate it in the way that, like, clearly you had an artist's eye to begin with.
Right.
You know.
So yeah, because one of the things is too from chess is just kind of, I call it like reverse engineering. So it's like, what's our goal? We're gonna work backwards. So if I'm going to be the photographer of a magazine, right? The thought process was, okay, who do we want to be on par with? Condé Nast, Vogue, Elle, you know, all of these, you know, Harper Bazaar, you know, these type of high-end fashion magazines. What makes a fashion photo? Designers, clothes, imagery, whatever the case is. So it's like, okay, this is where I need to go to. So that was my process as far as building out my eye. So everything I looked at, like walking through, Tawana will tell you walking through the mall, I can't turn it off. I'll just stop. What are you looking at? That poster right there, you know, for Lane Bryant. I like the way that was shot, you know, the colors, the this, the that. TV commercial. Like if you look at Target, their branding for all their commercials is bright red with some white in between, but it's always a bright red background, bright red something. And from just always looking at that, it's just kind of like, okay, we need to do a shoot, swimwear, resort. Got it. You know, and you can just go from there. So just researching what it is you want to do, researching where you want to go, and just figuring out how to get there and making it work.
You know, this is a conversation point that again has come up in a lot of these conversations this season. This thing of people want the opportunity, and they think they simply deserve the opportunity because they're there and they want it, and that's it. But that is not how the opportunity works. The opportunity comes when it comes, and you oftentimes cannot control when that opportunity comes, but what you can control is being ready for when the opportunity comes. So much like you say, you work at it backwards, you had to train your eye. So what does that mean? Well, now you got to go and start looking at things, you got to do the research, you got to practice, you got to do all these things so that when it comes time to shoot the photo, when it comes time to booking the models and talking to the people and doing the thing, you already know what needs doing. Because when someone comes to you with the opportunity, they're not saying, hey, person of obscurity who you're starting from zero, we're going to help you get all the way up to 100. They're going, baby, we're already at 100 and we're looking for something new. It looks like you could be the one, which means you're not at zero. You're at somewhere along the way where they're like, well, hang on. We know that if we swoop in and grab them, we can lift them up to greater heights.
Right, exactly.
Right. And that is very clear, again, with the work that you'll do. You can see there is a very fine eye to the poses, because we had the opportunity. We went through your website, babe. We had a look at the photos. We looked at the galleries.
Right.
You can see the work. Like it is, but that's the thing. It is clear from shoot to shoot. It doesn't matter the event, the venue, or who is being photographed. There is a through line of consistency, and the consistency there is quality. And I would be curious to know, because you are based in New York, right?
Yes, correct.
So as a freelance photographer in New York City, like what is the photography scene like in New York?
New York, you know, New York is a mecca, is fashion mecca. So, you know, a lot of models, a lot of photographers, a lot of just opportunities to do photography. You know, we have the scenery, we have, you know, models, we have everything you could possibly want. It's just a matter of finding the consistency, finding the right people, making sure you're outsourcing everything. But it's interesting, you know, and then more so probably just finding money, because at the end of the day, you know, everybody's the coins, you know, so trying to find what that sweet spot is as far as, okay, this is, even though some people will say set your price, you know, the real people who see it appreciate the quality, they'll pay for it, but it's still to get to that point, just riding the wave. But it's interesting being in New York, always having someone to shoot, always being somewhere, driving somewhere on a highway and being like, oh, we need to come back. Where are we right now? I need to shoot something here. So, you know, it's interesting.
And what do you feel like inspires your photography in the midst of that? Like, I understand when it's an event, maybe there's an obliged theme or things that you have to, you know, mandatory inclusions, but when it's just you and the camera, what inspires that focus?
What inspires it? Pretty much just what I feel. I think it's being able to recollect everything that I might have seen, be in an ad, be in a commercial, something like that, doing a shoot and seeing everything like oh, this is how they got that. Now I see it, taking the shot, trying to replicate that so that it becomes more muscle memory. So I don't have to think as much. So that if an opportunity comes up, like, hey, be it a job, be it an event, be it a model, something just comes up, yo, we need you to shoot this like now and just be able to produce. It's just building the muscle memory so I can do that.
So how would one have the opportunity to be photographed by you?
You reach out to me first, or us, Tawana, because she's always on set with me. That's the other half of it as well, because just shooting for the magazine in itself, it helps me also kind of figure out, okay, like being able to take someone's instructions and giving them what it is they're looking for. So a lot of times Tawana just has this idea like, I want this, but she may not be able to articulate it, or she can articulate it, but I can't understand it technically. So I'll kind of start from like a base and work from there. So to work with us, you would just email us, queensizemagazine.com. No, website. You would do queensizemagazine@gmail.com and, reach out and let's see, what vision you have, what ideas you have, and go from there.
You were once quoted as saying, capture the beauty of the world and create lasting memories one photograph at a time. So
Yeah.
what are some of the most beautiful aspects of the world for you?
Just life in general. Just with all the different things in the world, how everything just has its place, has its time, has its moment. Nothing intrudes on the other, so to speak. You have night, you have day, winter, fall, spring, everything just has its time.
It kind of reminds me of one of my favorite poems by William Blake. It's called The Auguries of Innocence. And the first couple of lines are, see the world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wild flower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour.
I like that.
And that's kind of how I just sort of look at the world. I mean, I know that like a lot of people see a lot of things as kind of insignificant and like, they overlook it. But I remember one time I sort of tweeted something into the ether, or actually it was on Facebook. And a couple of people are like, why is that? Like, so I was on vacation I wasn't really doing anything all that amazing, but I was just sitting by a pool and I was watching the water reflect through the water surface onto the bottom of the pool and thought, God, that's really beautiful. I'd love to be able to take a picture of that somehow. And like, as insignificant as that seems, I feel like that ties into those couple of lines of that poem. It's like, it may seem insignificant to other people, but to you, it is something that you want to take time and pay attention to.
Yeah. The finer details in life sometimes.
I think something that stood out to me when you mentioned about the seasons and everything has its place. We live in a very on-demand world, right?
Yeah.
We have an expectation that it does not matter if the apples are out of season. I want apples and I want them now. There is no reason that I should not have apples now. And yet the way of the natural world is, baby, you gotta wait the calendar year. It takes time before the apples are ripe for picking. Right. And I think that note of everything in its season, everything in its time is very reflective of, we sometimes limit ourselves to the one thing and we say, well, that one thing is El Nino. It just goes year round. When actually maybe it's an element of figuring out how does your thing exist in a winter reflection, in a summer reflection, and even if it's not so like specific about the seasons, right? Like, just how does what you do and what you bring to the table, how does it make sense for different times, for different periods, for different people, for different places and contexts? And I do think that is a challenge that more of us need to come to grips with. How do we translate ourselves to different people and in different places and make it make sense, so that, again, that there is that consistent through line? But I want to talk about this right here, because again, going through your website, you have shot for Swim and Fashion Week Experience, Curvaceous Sweet and Sassy, Silver Fox Soiree, House of Sheba, Miss Full Figured USA, New Jersey, Connecticut, DMV, and New York, District of Curves Fashion Show, Jennifer Laws and the Crystal Runway Fashion Show, Lifestyle Honors, and the Not My Eyes event. You have done a substantial amount, my friend. What do you feel has been the through line to your success?
One, being Queen Size Magazine has afforded me a lot of opportunities, pretty much, to photograph all of those events, be it through media sponsorships, be it just helping individuals. I think, because to want to wear their heart on our sleeve. So the magazine has grown because we've helped others, not ourselves, pretty much. Be it by giving everyone a platform that they can say, hey, I'm here. This is what I'm doing. Come see me. This is what I did. See me next year, whatever the case is. So being a photographer for Queen Size Magazine has definitely helped. And just then being able, when you get the opportunities, to hold on to the opportunities is important as well. That's where kind of learning what it is that makes you, learning your craft comes into play. Because if you get the opportunity, but you haven't taken time to study, you haven't taken time to learn your craft, you haven't taken time to understand, yes, it's a fashion industry. Yes, there are multiple personalities. Yes, everyone is looking for something different, but it's what makes you you. Then are you consistently you? You're not one event, you're one way, the other event, you're another way, and we really can't tell which way you're going, which then also helps with your consistency, because then the longevity. If you do not get that immediate quick start, can you prove and show, hey, this is why I'm here, this is what I'm doing? So my photography pretty much is a testament to that, just the consistency, the methodology that I use, that Tawana uses, that Queen Size Magazine stands for, just building and constantly executing no matter what the event may be, no matter what the project might be, just being able to always hit that mark, hit that deadline.
To that point, we did have a question that came through from one of our other interviewees, Cameron Boyland. He wants to know what inspired collaboration on the Fires, and what is the vision for the Fires over the next few years?
So, unless you're there for VIP hour, you don't see me constantly running around. So for the Fires, my collaboration pretty much is the overall show visuals, the presentation that actually runs during the show. I have to sit down, I have to build that out graphically, slides, how many slides, how are we going to do it, how the transitions look, so that before you even get to the show, pretty much making sure when we get there, so pretty much being Tawana's right hand, I'm just following her run of show for the day, pretty much. Hey, we're coming in at 7:30 in the morning. We're going to unload the cars. We're going to set everything up in the staging area. Then we're going to begin to do gift bags. While she's doing gift bags, I'm out front putting up the step and repeats, putting out the red carpet, making sure that looks good. Then, just being in charge then of, along with Reggie, who's one of the hosts, and Maddie and Gwen, just pretty much doing the run through of the show. Hey, is there anything else you guys see you want to add, you want to kind of maybe take out or adjust last minute? And then for VIP hour, just making our media at 1:00, just making sure they're all checked in, giving the media a walkthrough. Hey, this is the red carpet, this is where you're going to be stationed. Let me take you on a tour just in case you've never been to the room or the Fires before. This is where the guests are coming in at. This is where the winners are going to come on stage. We want photos here. And just pretty much running through from, top to bottom, pretty much everything that happens during the day of. And the second part of the question was the vision for the Fires, which is funny because we just came from Maryland. So for 4.5 hours, we did nothing but talk about business. So that's always fun. Making the Fires larger. And I mean that as far as we want to continue to grow our reach, our presence, bring more people into the spotlight who have been toiling, have been working, haven't had their flowers yet, as they say. Definitely trying somewhere to get Tawana in front of Tyler Perry to picture a show, to get it then put onto the big screen as it was. So, we'll be up there with the Grammys, the Oscars, the Emmys, whoever's doing country and western award shows. So the goal is just to continue growing, adapting, evolving, because we don't want anyone to get complacent or stagnant within the show. And we don't want people coming to the show to say, oh yeah, I've already seen this. Oh yeah, you sit down and you kind of watch a movie for the third time. You still kind of like it, but you're like, oh yeah, this comes next. So just to keep people, on the edge of their seat, per se.
And with all of this work that you do for Queen Size Magazine and the FFIAs and this legacy, this personal legacy that you're building, what do you hope to inspire in the next generation of young Black photographers?
That's a great question. So I would say, don't give up. That's the easiest thing. Back to consistency. Find your passion, find your niche, because there's plenty of avenues. Fashion might not be for you. Landscape photography, you could do, you have fashion, you have runway, you have editorial, you could just do product photography. So you could just be somebody that's like, you know what, I like shooting people, but I really don't want to kind of be in that space if I don't need to be for whatever reason. Do product photography, watches, food, restaurant images, stock photos, whatever the case is. Just learn your craft back and front and just power through. Just know your why and stay true to your why.
I can totally get that, because like the one thing that I said I never wanted to do was wedding photography. I said I will do anything else but wedding photography.
Right. That's
I was like, that is a realm in which if you make a mistake, you will sorely pay for it. So
yes, you will. I want to dip my toes into wedding photography. I would definitely do it as maybe a third or second shooter first, and then go from there if I want to. But yeah, definitely dip my toe in on the very shallow end first.
I've done it for family members, and that's as far as it's gone.
I've done one for a friend who was like, "No, I want you to do it. It's all right," But yeah, definitely second, third shooter first, and then go from there after that.
As part of a larger legacy, you are you're the vice president of the Queen Size magazine and the assistant producer for the Full Figured Industry Awards. What does it feel like to be part of a larger plus size legacy?
I don't think it really has hit yet. My goal when Tawana brought me on board was, because I asked, what is the goal? Why do you want me on board? What's happening? Why are you revamping? What's going on? So and Tawana's goal for the magazine is the same as the FFIAs, to expand, to be the platform for the plus. So everyone has a voice, everyone has a platform they can stand on, tell their story, show their work. So my goal pretty much is just to make sure that Tawana's goal is met. So for me, I'm not thinking legacy yet. I'm just thinking, has Tawana hit her mark? Has she hit her goal? And if not, why? And that's just what it is right now. Just very lasered focus.
Fair. We love it. And again, we love a driven man. But you know what? Let's dip a little bit in to what makes you you. I would love to know what food gives you life and what food brings you peace.
Oh, wow. Life, Caribbean food. So let's oxtails. No, I'm not happy with the price of oxtails right now at all. But oxtails definitely gives me life. That's like comfort food right there. Peace, ice cream. I have different flavors, more so rum raisin, but I can go right. Rum raisin gets a lot of hate for some reason. I'm not sure what.
It's just not a flavor that you hear many people talk about. It's kind of like I don't hear a lot of people talk about Rocky Road either.
I don't like to chew through ice cream. It's weird. Rocky Road, I'm like, I don't, that butter pecan to a degree, like Oreos and cream, but rum raisin, or if anything with the long hours I do, I'll do even coffee ice cream. But I'm more of a milkshake person, so I'll just have them, do it into a milkshake, so it's like perfect.
I am right there with you. Nothing is better than a late night milkshake for me. I do suffer for it as I am growing more lactose intolerant, but it's a pain I'm willing to suffer through.
Right. Guilty pleasures, as it were, like you'll chance it.
Yes.
What is your guys' comfort food? Same question to you, if we can do that.
Oh, it's definitely ice cream, donuts, oh God, what else? Candy. I have such a weakness for candy. I know that I shouldn't eat as much of it as I do, but like, you give me a packet of Skittles and I'm gonna devour it quickly.
Any type of donut, curlers, does it have to be filled?
Oh, so my favorite donut is called the Elvis. It is a glazed donut smeared with chocolate. Then there's banana chips on it, peanut butter, bacon bits.
Whoa, okay. Sounds interesting. And is that like I guess not novelty, but like a donut specialty shop?
Well, it's specifically the kind of donut, because I believe Elvis liked late night grilled peanut butter, banana, and chocolate sandwiches.
Makes sense.
And so it's kind of like a take on his favorite midnight snack.
Okay.
I suppose for me, the food that, Well, I'll say the food that brings me peace is a potato and leek soup, very specifically because my mother does not like to cook, but it is perhaps one of the few things that she does and she does well. And every time I make it and I have it, it brings me back to being like 4 years old, sat at the kitchen table, being so short that my arms are like up here, laying flat on the table, my legs are dangling, and it's like a cold winter morning, and it's just like, just takes me all the way back there. And in terms of food that gives me life, I love food in general. I love to cook. I love to experiment. I love good flavor. Like a Southeast Asian dish or a South Asian dish will every single time have me popping because it's just fantastic. Like the more seasoning and flavor you can put in the dish, the better. I want all of it. And then put some more. So that's it for me.
All right, so when you come to the fire, then we're gonna have to find a nice restaurant then and figure out. I don't know about the Elvis. I'll have to look into that after.
Oh, I'm sure there must be a donut shop somewhere in Manhattan or Queens or one of the boroughs that's got the Elvis. It's a pretty iconic donut.
I'll see if I can find it. I'll research and see.
There you go. Now, I'd be curious to ask you, what aspects of all things plus size do you think gets too much shine, and what do you think we need to see more of?
The implied nudity. And I think that just goes back to, once again, me just coming inside the industry and just kind of looking at what the fashion industry is, regardless of time, regardless of whatever. It's fashion, clothing, designers. I'm not saying designers don't make lingerie, Victoria's Secret, that type of thing. But when you talk about fashion, and even when they have back to the award shows, and even like the Met Gala, everyone sits down and they're like, oh my God, look at that outfit. Did you see this? Everyone's posting, who slayed, who killed a runway in this garment, in this dress, in this gown, whatever the case is. And then when it's time for you then to step out and create your portfolio, your mood board, your body of work that you want a company to sit down and look at, it's the opposite. Per se, which doesn't then make sense, because then going back to your target audience, if you're going to Lane Bryant, you're going to the Avenue and you're like, okay, I want to model for you guys or something like that. They're like, okay, let's see your work. They're putting out business wear, day wear, evening wear, whatever the case is, and you just pull out all swimsuits or a boudoir, all suggestive stuff. It's like, okay, so you don't know about the market, you haven't researched your clients, which everyone, no matter where you fall in the disciplines, know your client. You didn't do that. So that would be what gets too much. And then on the other spectrum, just fashion. Actually learning fashion, just, really just taking a weekend to sit down and just being like, okay, I want to model. Who's the model? I want to do makeup. I want to do hair. What are some styles I can do? So that when you get that opportunity, I don't want to say not flake isn't the word, but you don't want to come up short when you get that break. Because, social media, especially content, is out there. So people spend a lot of time building this visual facade, let's say, of, oh, I'm traveling here, I'm doing this work, I'm here, I'm doing that. And then someone comes to you with a project, let's just say, and you can't produce because a lot of your stuff is either AI created for the newer stuff, or photos, it's filtered heavy. So you actually mask a lot of the imperfections by slapping like an IG image on it. But when the client wants work not filtered, photographers, of course, we filter it, but it's called color grading. You see it in movies and stuff. But that's because every color grade is kind of different depending on the tone you want to set, the location you're in, that type of thing. But you just kind of take one filter, slap it on everything, and it's kind of like, then when you give it to the client's like, yeah, no, I don't want this, I want this. It's like, okay, you don't know what you're doing. So that's what I want to see more of, people just actually knowing their craft. So when you get that break, you get that magazine feature, that runway spot, you can actually produce, you can actually walk or or model the garments, and we don't have to, because you know, time is money in the industry. So if you're booking a studio, you're doing a show, you're paying for a model coach to come and train the models because you've put out, you're having this show, or you have these models because you have an agency, but you know, it's like you put yourself up here, and then when you actually see the work, it doesn't add up.
It's kind of like I was going to say, you know, you can rock up with all of the confidence that you want, and you may have self-taught. You know, you may have watched a lot of YouTube videos, you know, and say like you're a makeup artist and you want to work in the industry, and all well and good that you have done this self-training, but you still have to know that there's got to be some kind of basics and foundation there. Like if you've never heard who Max Factor is, you know, like you don't know any of, or you're going into modeling and you don't know any of the major fashion houses, like you've never heard of Givenchy, you've never heard of Hermes, like these are things you should know if this is the industry that in which you wish to work.
Like
So
there's nothing wrong. I'm self-taught. I've had the joy and the luck to work with a lot of photographers who's taken their time and their time to show me what it is that I'm doing wrong. If I ask them questions, help me along the way. But you still have to kind of put in the work, because it's all muscle memory no matter what you're doing. You know, whether you're walking, whether you're doing photos, whether you're designing, sewing, a stylist, you have to continue. They say that nothing is learned until 1,000 hours is when you really master something. But you know, you have to kind of master it by knowing the ins and outs of it, by putting into the work, by knowing what makes it tick. You know, work knowing the framework, as JM said earlier. If you know the framework, then you know how you can break it, you know how you can twist it, you know what you can do to it. So when someone comes and asks you something, it's like, yes, this is what it is, but it's my take. This is what they're doing, but you know, it's evolution. This is what they did, but this is how we can improve upon it. It's hard to improve on something if you don't even know what's wrong with it in the first place, or how it doesn't work. So yeah, that's what long-winded, but that's what I want to kind of see. Less implied nudity, more just learning crafts, more fashion, putting the fashion back into the industry again.
and so as a way to round this out, what is next for you? What's the next big thing that's on your horizon?
Can I call Tawana to find out? I don't know. I don't know what she has on the list right now.
You know what, fair, because this is what I do when it comes to James. If people were, oh, what's the next big thing? I'd be like, oh, let me talk to James real quick and make sure I'm on the right page about what it is we're doing.
Right, can I like phone a friend, the wrong show?
Because I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to throw anything out there that we're not ready to yet talk about. Like, I need to ask him first.
I'm sure anything next I'll learn about with the rest of the world when Tawana drops an exclusive somewhere online. Right now, we're in fire production mode. So for me personally, just still evolving. So we have a casting call right now for a jewelry shoot we're going to be doing. So I've done, of course, headshots. I've done photography, you know, photos, portraits, whatever like that before. So that's going to be an interesting take for me, because now I'm going to get to encompass and focus more on jewelry. You'll still have models, but that's what it's going to be. But major projects, I'm not sure yet, because I think we treat everything as major. It just kind of keeps us sharp. So no matter what it is, if it's just doing a jewelry shoot or doing a casting or putting on a full production show, it's kind of like you treat it with all the same energy, kind of, so that, you know, nothing kind of falls through the cracks, or you don't kind of, I don't want to say half-ass it, but it's like, I don't know if I could just curse. So, you know, but, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, just put the same energy through everything. So you stay sharp, you stay consistent, and your quality doesn't dip. You don't mean it to dip. It just kind of does, just because you weren't detail attentive as you might have been. Because like, oh yeah, that's not as big, so I'll just do that. And, you know, but yeah, I'm not sure yet.
Now listen, I think the real final question we gotta ask you here, and we talked about this very briefly at the beginning of today's episode, but you've never really been interviewed before, right?
No, you guys are my first official interview. Yeah, no interviews, no lives, no IGs, no nothing. I'm usually behind the scenes, so if Tawana's doing a live, I'm dropping the links in the chat. I don't know if that counts or not. Can we just say my camera was broken? But but other than that, no, this is my first interview.
Why do you think that is? That you normally don't put yourself out there like that?
Because these are Tawana's babies. I came on board after she had Queen Size magazine. Yes, I was there for the inception of the FFIAs, but it's Tawana's brand, and she'll probably be like, "Why did you say that?" Like, because she says it's our brand, but it's her babies. I don't want that. I think part of it too is because of the industry. It's a lot of everyone wants to be headliners. Now, for whatever reason, I'm not saying it's good, I'm not saying it's bad, but everyone want to be a headliner. The analogy like too many chiefs, not enough Indians, too many chefs, not enough cooks type of thing. So it's always Tawana's in charge, Tawana's on the lead, and it just helps with the organizational structure. Someone can talk to me, I'll say something and I never agree to it because I got to talk to Tawana. Tawana will have a conversation with somebody and she'll come back to me. So even though there's the synergy and we are on par, I just like to stay back. It keeps things easier. There's no dirt to find. Well, Philip said this. Philip would not say that because Tawana didn't say it and we didn't have a discussion. It's happened. Well, Phil said this and this. She's like, no, he didn't say that. So I don't speak for the boss, nothing like that. I just like to be in the back. Let me do my work. Let me do my tech stuff. Let me do my photography, and you enjoy all of the red carpet and the glam and the bright lights. Enjoy.
Well, I'll say one thing here on that. I think you have been an absolute delight to speak to. I think you have a wealth of knowledge that the world is now blessed, thanks to this interview, to have seen just a taste of. And honestly, I think should make more people excited to get to know more about you and to see your involvement with Queen Size Magazine and the FFIAs. So honestly, Phil, thank you so much for today. This has been a real pleasure.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. It has been a pleasure as well. I'm sure there's going to be a few mini strokes, quickening of the pace, because for people who know me off camera, I'm a very straight shooter, so I've had to really try to work on staying not ruffling too many feathers tonight. So when this drops, it's going to be interesting to see.
Well, you keep us posted. But to that point, for anyone who's interested in connecting with you or learning more about you, where can the viewers find you online?
So my website is www.photosbypdrew.com. If you're looking to work with me, my email is Sam, because we're about branding. So email is photosbypdrew@gmail.com. Or if you want to work with the magazine, please feel free to email us, queensizemagazine@gmail.com. And the FFIAs, definitely follow us on IG, definitely, so you don't miss any deadlines, any dates, anything like that, because we will be dropping tickets, I believe, soon, maybe next month sometime. Definitely sign up for the newsletter at www.theffias.com, and about it.
Well, that's a wrap for now here with this week's full-figured interview. You can find me on Instagram at Stanham.
And you can find me on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at ThiccMouse.
Now, please like this video, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Comment below and let us know your thoughts on today's conversation. Share the video with your friends and encourage them to tune in next week, where we'll be speaking with more full-figured excellence right here on the channel. So until then, have a great week.